Hello, welcome back to our series, Catholic Biblical Apologetics. We are on the topic of the sacraments in part 5. This is the sacrament of healing, the anointing of the sick. It is, by the way, the shortest of all the sacrament presentations. We call the anointing or healing the sacrament of the sick and the dying. Catholic Christians have always believed in and practiced the anointing and the healing of the sick. Before Vatican Council II, the rite was called extreme unction. Unction meaning an anointing, extreme at the end of life, or the last anointing, and referred principally to the anointing which took place when a believer was close to death. The sacrament has been restored to the role it had in the Apostolic Church. It is also part of what is called last rites, and Hollywood makes a big deal of this. They're correct with the title last rites. It is not a single rite. It is not only the anointing of the sick, but it includes sacramental reconciliation and Eucharist. So 3 sacraments are part of the so-called last rites. We know that Jesus healed people according to the Gospels. In Mark, first chapter, he writes, moved with pity, Jesus stretched out his hand, touched him, and said to him, I do will it, be made clean. In the 8th chapter of Mark's Gospel, he records Jesus putting spittle on his eyes, and he laid his hands on him and asked, do you see anything? The apostles followed the example of Jesus and carried out his teaching. They anointed the sick for healing. Look again in Mark 6. They, the 12, drove out many demons, and they anointed with oil many who were sick and cured them. In the letter of James, chapter 5, he writes, Is anyone among you sick? You should summon the presbyters of the church, and they should pray over him and anoint him with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer of faith will save the sick person, and the Lord will raise him up. If he has committed any sins, he will be forgiven. In the 2nd chapter of James' letter, what good is it? He wrote, My brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works, can that faith save him? The constant faith of the Church and the teaching magisterium attest to the existence of the sacrament from the early Church. In the first 2 centuries, there are no commentaries extant on the Epistle of James. Indeed, the canon of the New Testament to include the epistle was not firm until the local councils of Hippo and Carthage in 393 and 397, as we've already seen. The early fathers of the Church did not systematically comment on all aspects of the life of the Church. It must be noted that in the early Church, emphasis was not given to the need of anointing or healing. It was the practice of Christians to be baptized at the end of life. There are many allusions in the later fathers of the Church, both in the use of the rite of anointing of the sick and for obtaining healing of both soul and body. And there they are, some of the great names: Origen, Tertullian, Athanasius, Gregory, St. Chrysostom, Ambrose, and Augustine, and many others. It's the Council of Trent that defined that the sacrament of extreme unction or anointing of the sick was listed among the 7 sacraments. I told you this would be short. This is the end of the sacrament of the sick and dying, part 5H. You go on now to the sacrament of matrimony, Christian marriage, part 5I.